Hello, Section 901. This is the promised video of walking you through the final exam. I've got a draft complete here, and I'm not promising it won't get cleaned up a little bit as I walk through it here. I'll take notes of things to change and note them in the video, but want to get this posted for you today. So by continuing, you agree not to cheat. I would encourage you to familiarize yourself with this draft so that by the time the exam rolls around, you'll know exactly what to expect. I would even encourage you to practice it with some different companies. You won't know which company you're doing until the time of the exam, which I'll provide right here. But you should practice some of these concepts. I think we have throughout the semester, but you still should. A couple of things that jumped out at me as I was previous version of this video was Canvas won't allow me to upload a file if it's open. And a lot of this is about saving Excel files and uploading continuously as you progress. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, you'll have to save it, close it, upload it, and then reopen it to continue to your work. Here, all just the more reason you should practice that a couple times. Canvas renames your file for me, so I can care less what you name it because I'll never know what you named it. I get that question a lot, and naming of the files is not important to me. I want to stress that while Canvas forces me to assign a certain number of points to a quiz, that I will be generous with partial credit on this exam. This is the first for me to ask students to do this quickly, but I think you guys have done an amazing job this semester and I think you're up for it. And just know that there will be generous partial credit, so keep calm and model on, I guess, as the bumper sticker would say. So let's see what the first question is. Download the 10K. Okay, you know the drill here. I won't waste your video time with this. What you need to do, let me check something. What you need to do is go to the company website, find their 10K in the PDF format, and downloading some other format and saving it as a PDF is not sufficient. I want that so that I can search it and you search it, get in the practice of doing it that way. So let's see, question 2, go to SEC Edgar and download that. You know that drill as well. I won't drag you through that on the video to do this, but what I'm going to do in the video is demo Apple. So let me jump over here to sec.gov/Edgar, company filings. Hopefully you've done this a lot this semester, and I'm going to demo Apple in this video. So I always like to filter by 10K to get the interactive data and then download the Excel document. And so I think this is the file that you upload as it is right now. My computer, there we go. As it is right now in question 2. And then in question 3, let's see where I lost my quiz here. Good reason to practice, huh? So you can get around on these. So that was question 2, just upload the SEC Edgar. That way if you for some reason get the wrong file and everything craters, I understand where it happened and we can pick up the pieces. And then on question 3, we want to rearrange the history. We've done this several times. There are videos out there, but I'm going to do it quickly anyway. We want to end up with income statement, balance sheet, and cash flows, and then the combined on the originals in order of oldest to newest from left to right. So let me just go through that quickly. Don't get tripped up with your statement of operations. That's what a lot of people call their income statement. Don't let that statement of comprehensive income throw you off and make you think that that's the income statement. Similarly, grab the balance sheet, not the parenthetical balance sheet. Those are common mistakes, and usually I don't see too many mistakes on the treatment, on the cash flow. So when you right click, I was holding control down to get all 3, and create a copy of those in a new book, you will end up with those 3 statements. So mine happen to be in order, so I'm just going to rename them quickly. And then we're going to double check and make sure I got the right thing. I know that a cash flow statement should have operating, investing, and financing activities. So I feel pretty good about that. A balance sheet should have total assets and total liabilities and equities. Be easier if they would bold those things. But I'm pretty convinced that that's a balance sheet. And then the income statement We normally start with sales. Apple happens to call them net sales. Other people call it revenue, and it needs to get down to net income at some point. So if those things don't look right, you may have the wrong file. Now we need to start a fourth sheet out here, not the wrong file, the wrong tab out of that file. We need to start a fourth sheet that will become our originals, and we know that income statement's going to be at the top of it, so I'm just going to click, hold down Control, and drag. Let go of the mouse before I let go of Control. And now I've got a third of the originals done. I'll come back to Balance Sheet, Control Home, Control Shift End, copy, paste, and then I'm going to Control Page Up, Control Home, copy, paste. And now we've got them all in order, but the dates are out of order. So I strongly recommend that you sort by entire column. So we get 17, 18, 19 instead of what we have now. But watch what happens if I try to sort that left to right by row 2. It tells me, hey, you have some merged cells, so you need to fix that. So I'm going to hit Control 1. And I'm already on the alignment tab, but Control Pages up and down gets me around. Alt M a couple times to uncheck that merge cell box. And now we're no longer merged. And with the columns, entire column selected, I can do an Alt DS, Option, sort left to right on row 2. And I think it needs to be Z to A. Do what you need to do to get that from 17, 18, 19. Please be careful to make sure that the balance sheet columns, since there's probably going to be one fewer, line up under the correct years, and that the cash flows are also 17, 18, 19. That's why I strongly recommend doing that in entire columns. So I'm going to save that as originals, and I will upload it to, let's see, I hope, by the way, that when you upload to Canvas, that they give you a little bit better confirmation. Watch what happens when I upload. It says it's in use, for one thing, so I'm going to leave that window open. Come back over here, hit Control W to close. I'm going to close out that Edgar file, which I didn't save and upload on problem 2. Just don't want to get confused and start working on that again. Now I can come back to this open window now that I've closed that file and say OK. I don't know if Canvas works that way for you, but that's how it works for me. And then once I've uploaded it there, see, Canvas gave me no confirmation, but I'll bet it gives you a confirmation. Ready to move on to question 4, where we will restate. You remember restating. And so if I hit File, usually my most recent file will show up right there. Make sure that you've got the right file. And now to restate, we're going to use this model that I provide you on the final. You can go ahead and start working with it now. It's going to look a lot like this, except it's not going to have that. Nope. I got the wrong file. Let me hit pause and fix that. Okay, now when I click on that link, I get the file I intended to get. That's why we do the dry run. And this is what it looks like. So expect some kind of a dashboard up here that ultimately when you finish this exam, you'll be linking that to your model. But right now we're talking about restating. So I think what the question asks us to do, let me read it and make sure, we're going to copy and paste those 4 entire columns from originals into column J. We can push them down a little bit by inserting some cells on top to get them to better align with where we're going to restate. And then we're going to use formulas in the blue shaded cells to reference line items from originals. This is a little bit new. It's stuff you've done before, but I didn't shade the cells blue. I'm doing that to facilitate your time on the exam. And this is the part I really want to stress, that I'll be generous with partial credit here, because Not all of us are accounting majors, certainly not me. So we want to copy that, paste it into column J, and then I'm going to push it down so that it's about the top of my income statement. Do a Control-Shift+ and shift cells down. I think a right-click insert might have done the same thing. And so now I am ready to restate. Hopefully this brings back some wonderful memories of your project. Tongue-in-cheek, right? So do an Alt-WG there to zoom into that selection. Okay, so to work through this, you remember the drill. Sales, we're just going to point it over here. And by using a formula in these blue cells, we'll be able to copy them to the right. Cost of goods sold, I'm going to make it negative because they show their cost of sales as positive. And then I can go ahead and do an Alt equal and put that formula in there. Now for the SG&A, you need to use a little bit of judgment here. You've got this research and development thing popping up. So if I were you, I would go ahead and grab it here. I'm not going to guarantee, in fact I'll guarantee that it won't. My template won't perfectly match. So I want you to use your best judgment, and I want you to trust me that I'll be generous with partial credit. As you go, you can add those up, and the idea would be that our operating income matches here. Now it's not going to work perfectly, but it does need to work perfectly by the time we get down to net income. Okay, part of this class was learning that learning how to transfer this. I know nobody's leaving this class feeling like they have it perfect, but the fact that you've struggled with it, I think will serve you well in the future because you'll know some questions to ask when this comes up in the future. Now notice we have a line over here for depreciation. We don't have depreciation on this income statement. This is one of the things I've stressed all semester long, is we need to look somewhere else for that. And where I would like you to look during the exam, if your income statement does not show depreciation, just get it from the cash flow, but you need to be sure to take it out of something else so you don't double dip it. So I'm going to leave you some flexibility here. I'm going to go get depreciation, and you will have to get depreciation from the cash flow. You know that it comes right after net income on the cash flow statement. So we'll make it negative and use that number. Now I'm going to accidentally forget to take it out of cost of goods sold right now and show you what happens. So we can add these two together. Interest expense, this is something else I've loved to talk about all semester. All I see over here that even looks like that is this other income, expense net. So I'm going to jump over to that 10K. Oh, I didn't download that in this video. I'm going to hit pause and download the 10K. Well, I guess I'll keep it rolling. The way I like to do that is Apple Investor Relations, SEC filings. And I'd recommend you practice this on several companies since everybody's website's a little bit different. Go out there and get a feel for what these things are like so I can't surprise you in your exam. So once you find that 10K, I seem to have better luck in Acrobat, but I think you could search it in the browser. Control F in Acrobat would let me search for interest expense. And wow, I didn't think I would be that lucky with the first hit, but you're looking for some kind of a table that shows interest income, interest expense, and net interest expense. Now this table happens to have other income, expense, net. And so since I have a place for it, I'll put it here. If I didn't have a place for it, you could put it in interest expense. I've tried to go in and add things for like other expense, other non-current assets, and other non-current liabilities so that you'll have a place to put anything that doesn't seem to fit anywhere else. Now let's think about how to get interest expense in here. This is 19, 18, 17. This is 17, 18, 19. So be careful which column you're pulling. These aren't even in the same order, but I know I want 23, 23. I'm going to copy, paste. copy, paste. Oh, got an extra parentheses. Copy, paste. Now the parentheses look good, but I'm going to click on one of those cells, and yeah, it sure did put it in as a negative number. So I'm good on all three of those. Now let me get the income. So it's likely that I will choose a company that has interest expense and interest income. If it gets into something like an other, I'm not going to be nearly as worried about that. But you know how I feel about this interest expense, interest income thing. I'm going to throw in the other. And we'll see if these all add up to these bottom line numbers in the 10K. Did you know that the alt equal works when you do a range? Go back and check it, but I did a range and I hit alt equal, and it summed these three all the way across. 2745, 2005, 1807 matches these numbers, which are these numbers. So we're good there. Now we just need to do the math and say this is going to be that plus that. I can't really copy that across. I sure don't want to accidentally copy those values I cut and pasted on top of these others, but I could highlight that and hit Control R and feel pretty good about it. I don't know if these are going to add up correctly. They won't, because I forgot to take depreciation out. I'll get back to that in a minute. Income tax provision is going to be the negative over here. Again, if I were you, I'd just pull up some income statements and look at them and think about how you'd put them into the model. So net income should be the sum of those two. Control R and copy paste. Net income over here is different. Remember when I put in the depreciation? I added something that didn't come from over here. So I'm double dipping on depreciation. I can assume depreciation was in here or part of it was in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of cost of goods sold. You can feel the freedom to do that. This project is designed to help you do one of these in real life or future class, or I guess this class is real life, but I'm going to take that depreciation out. That made matters worse, so I think it was a sign problem. I wanted that number to get closer to 0 if it didn't include depreciation. And look at that, 48,351, 48,351. Control R, and then these 59 and 55 also match. Dividends. I think I said in the assignment, if you don't show dividends, get them from the cash flow. We didn't show depreciation, so we got it from the cash flow. We didn't show interest expense and earn, so we got it from the 10K. And then also, here in a minute, we'll get share counts. I think we have them on this company. If we didn't, we could divide net income by earnings per share to get the shares. And then down on the balance sheet, I think we'll have to go to the 10K again to get those three. So we'll see where we were. Dividends. We said they are in the financing section. Probably need a negative sign of the cash flow statement. Right here. I don't expect all this to be perfect, but I expect you to do your best. Retained earnings. So unfortunately, there's no place to really check retained earnings. So I want to stop for a minute and say, well, if my net income is this and I pay out some dividends, my retained earnings should get smaller. I can then go back and pull those basic shares and share count, diluted shares, Control R those guys. Okay, so we have restated the income statement. We've filled in the blue cells with formulas, and we've, in the unshaded cells, we've put in subtotal type formulas or referred to the cash flow statement, or in some cases actually pasted in some values. Let's do the same thing for the balance sheet. Here again, do your best and say what looks or smells like cash. Well, cash and cash equivalents does. Marketable securities does. Not so much, not so much. More marketable securities, this time non-current. Not so much. So I think that represents the cash on the balance sheet. Accounts receivable, I actually have a line for that. I'll just grab it. You could argue that vendor non-trade receivables maybe should go in there, and you could put them in there. I'm going to put them in other current assets. I sure wouldn't count it wrong either way. We're just trying to get through this section. So in other current assets, I need to sum up anything I didn't use in these current assets, which I think is that and that. I don't really have a subtotal to check here. Because remember, on my cash, I was pulling in some non-current assets. In modeling, if it looks or smells like cash, or if it looks or smells like debt, we put it in those. We also do a pretty shameless job of consolidating anything that looks or smells like equity into stock. So let's move on. When I look over here, I see net PP&E, but I don't see accumulated depreciation, and therefore I don't see gross PP&E. So let's go here. What could we search? Plants, 101, so that's probably not going to be super helpful, but property. So this is encouraging. I'm seeing a line item with some numbers, but when I look around, it's not the three magic rows we're looking for. I may have to come back to a paragraph, but I'd rather not. That's encouraging, but it's just the balance sheet. We already have that. That's probably another one of those other, well, that's our cash flow statement. That's a header. Just going to keep hitting next and see what we find. Our equipment. Hey, how about this one? We've got different types of equipment, which all add up to be gross PP&E. We've got accumulated depreciation, and then we've got net property, plant, equipment. Outstanding. Those are the three numbers we need. Excuse me. So I'm going to copy 2019. Well, I guess I'll go in the order I did last time. 2018, copy. That was gross. And then 2019, accumulated depreciation, copy, paste. Now let's do it this way. Let's sum those two. And see if we get the right answer. So I get 41,304 and 37,378. So that's right. So all three of these are correct. I'm going to copy and paste them as values because I know that in this model, I'm going to want to forecast my net fixed assets. So I don't really want it to be the sum. When I get to it over here, what I'll do is I'll forecast that as a percentage of sales or whatever it was. I will calculate that accumulated depreciation just by growing it from the income statement. And then I will back calculate the gross. I think it'll be that minus that to give me this number. But for now, we'll just leave those values in there that we got out of the 10K. This is probably a good time to hit Control R on this stuff. And then if I have any other non-current assets, let's see what I might have. Let's look over here for things we haven't used. Wouldn't hurt to highlight those as you use them. That one says other non-current assets. I wonder if there's anything else that I'm missing. I don't think there is. Let's see if my total assets add up to 365, 725. If I went there, we have to think about that sum. In this case, with that other non-current assets, I don't think you guys are used to seeing that in the most recent 365, 725. So Control R on those, and I get a 338, 516. Okay, so I've matched the bottom line of the assets side of the balance sheet. Let's see what I can do with liabilities. Accounts payable. Well, I wrote the sum, but really it looks like there's just one that's going to come over nicely. Other current liabilities. Don't really need these sums, but wasn't worth taking the time to redo. Other current liabilities. Total current liabilities, I can sum those two. Deferred revenue, I guess, will be an other non-current liability. No, I think it needs to go back in. Forgive me, I should have this a little bit cleaner on the video, but I'm going to put it in here. You can tell there's some art to this, and as I keep saying, I'll be very understanding. I want you to do your best. Let's see what looks or smells like debt. Accounts payable of the current levy deferred. Commercial paper kind of sounds like debt. Term debt does. Current term debt. Term debt non-current. Oops, I don't think I got that one. Term debt non-current. Other non-current would be I think just that one. Let's see if we happen to add up to 258. Okay, feel pretty good about that. Might not have got every one of those perfect, but we've got something we can work with. So approach it with that attitude. Stock, I know I'm going to have two rows here, stock and accumulated retained earnings. So let me do the accumulated retained earnings first, and then everything else in that equity section becomes stock. And we'll see if it totals 107, 147. It sure does, so we'll Control R that. And then if I add these two liabilities and equities together, I get Control R, 367, or 5725, 338, 516. Feeling pretty good about that. So my balance sheet balances, and I filled in all those blue cells, and the important rows match. Net income matches, total assets match, and total liabilities and equities. I will take off points if those don't match. If you didn't get something else perfectly right, I will be quite understanding on that. Just do your best. So I think I need to hit save. We've already done the restate. No, this is the restate, I'm sorry. For some reason I don't have a model button. I think I jumped out of this when I hit pause, so let me get it back. Get my upload button. Okay, so at this point we upload the file that has got all of the blue shaded cells filled in and all the formulas. And the reason I want you to upload it at this point is I can come back and I can see where your values came from. So it's very important that they're formulas, so I can come here and say F2, hit enter, and say F2, hit enter, say F2, and then I can see where everything came from. So if there's a problem in the model, I can trace it back and see where it came from. These will be values, but I will have looked at your 10K and I'll know what values to expect, and then so on and so forth. Another thing I could do is come here and do Alt MP, Alt MP, Alt MP, and so on. So good tricks for if you want to see if you used up all the rows over here, because if you're not adding up to the net income, the total assets, and so forth, maybe you didn't use all the rows. I think Alt M AA gets rid of those arrows. So save, upload, and then move on. Now in the next section, what we want to do is duplicate this tab and rename it as model. And what we don't want to do, I'm going to drag it and then press Control and then let go of my mouse. Oh, name it as model. What I don't want to do is start working on the template when I think I'm working on the model. So what I would encourage you to do is come over here and maybe just color that whole column some color you don't know, ugly Texas color there. So if we see that, we're over on the wrong file. So we're on here and we want to copy paste as values on the blue shaded cells. Then delete the columns, and if we see a ref, well, now we have a problem. For example, if I delete these, Control minus, and these were looking over there, then they say, hey, I don't even know where to look now. It's not just that I get a 0. If you delete the contents of those cells, if I undo and I hit the delete key, then that doesn't happen. So I don't really know right off the bat that I had a problem. So I don't like to delete the contents of the cells. I like to do a Control minus, or just right click up here and say delete those entire columns. And then I know if I had a problem. So I'm going to undo. Now here's the trick, and this would be some good shortcut practice. You want to get the blue cells and copy, and then whatever shortcut you like to paste values. Alt ESV, for example. Getting a phone call. Hi, sorry for that distraction. If I didn't say it before, by the way, reduce the amount of history that we have here so that you only have to import one historical filing and not try to merge two, because that's a lot of work. You don't have time for that. And also going forward, I've limited it to only 3 years of forecast. All the math is the same, but that way you have more space to see your work over here. And again, this is designed to be something that you can take away and refer to in the future. And so let me see where I was. I think we had completed the linking of the blue cells, and we were beginning to copy paste as values. Looks like I got those done and I didn't get these done. So copy, paste, copy, paste. I think those were already values. I want to be sure not to do the subtotals there, because we need them to, like them to be formulas that I can carry forward. Okay, and so now we've done all that. Hopefully, if I delete these, Control space is a good shortcut to get those entire columns. Oops, I missed one. I think I saw it on debt. Let's try it again. Yeah, if I do Control space, it selects all that, and then Control minus deletes it. Gosh, I did it again. Debt. Okay, after trying this about half a dozen times, I think I got all the blue cells copied and pasted as values. I'll try one more time and see if I have any refs. So don't rush through this like I'm doing. Take your time, and remember that undo is your friend. been my friend about half a dozen times in the last 5 minutes. Okay, so we've got that done, and now we've deleted those. We can upload it. I think, that is question number 5. Upload that file to Canvas. Now here's where we forecast the model, and I won't do this on the video because obviously I'm getting a little tired and you guys have done this a lot. You know how to come in here and calculate sales growth, depreciation as a percentage of average net fixed assets, and so on. You only need to do one column because if you think about it, that's all you're going to have room for, because average net fixed assets or average debt or average cash are going to require these 2 years. So you only need to do those. If I think about it, I'll just put some borders in there reminding you to only worry about those. And then when it comes time to choose your drivers, if you'd just like to say equal the previous one, that's fine. If due to the company I choose or due to an error that you make, that gives you some ridiculous number here, or if you just want to be more realistic, I will let you choose any numbers you want here that are plausible. I just want you to build a working model and get the whole thing done. The other difference that you're going to see in what you've done before is when you get to your cash flows, there's really no point in trying to do historical ones because there's so much more detail. Remember in our project we did some plugs to try to deal with that. You're not going to have time to do that on the exam, so only worry about forecasting the future. It'd probably be kind of messy if I did borders there. I don't think I'm going to do that. And then come down and do your free cash flow calculation, your discounted cash flow. I said use the current stock price times shares, so I want you to go out to Yahoo or your favorite place and get a recent stock price for the company that I give you on the exam. And then you won't have a cost of equity, so just use 10%. Type 10% in there. I think all the rest of these you'll have access to because you've done share count and you know price per share, so you can calculate that one. Don't forget that we're in millions of shares. Do your best there. Small points lost if we get that wrong. But it'll just be more confusing not to have it right. And then finally, I want you to do the ratio analysis. You could almost copy paste from another template I have out there, but not quite because there are probably extra rows in this one. But I want you to know how to calculate those 3 ratios, those 4 ratios, and these ratios. And so I've rushed through this. I've spent about 38 minutes on this video, so it may be a challenge. I'll do another dry run before Tuesday. I don't know if I'll record it. And if it looks like this exam is going to be too long, I may pre-populate some of this for you. Because the last thing I'm going to want you to do, let's see where we got to here. Forecasted the model, we did our additional sections. The last thing I want you to do is link it to the dashboard. And so I will already have some controls drawn up here. I will have some yellow cells up here for you to link to because I want to know where you're linking to. And so let's say if I'm doing sales growth and I'm doing a combo box with 3 rows in it, I might have 5%, 6%, 7%. And you'd need to link your little combo box to the yellow cell, and then you'd need to come down to sales growth and use your little index formula to choose one of these based on that one. Or I could do option buttons or check boxes or other things, but I think you'll find them pretty straightforward. I just wanted to give you the chance to go soup to nuts during your exam to begin with the filings and end up with a dashboard. And if I still think we have time, then I will ask you a couple of simple questions from the ratios, since we really didn't get a chance to test on that. So again, work through this a couple times with a few different companies. The point is for you to pick up a fresh filing and see if you can make sense out of how to get it in here. I don't want to overstate the fact that I'll be generous with partial credit, but I also don't want you to lose sleep over getting the exact right numbers in there. Apologize for the long video and not going to edit it, but I want to get it started processing so you can get started looking at it. Have a great day and weekend, and call me with any questions.